Hi, this is a Blender lesson on objects and basic mesh editing. Let's get rid of this cube. To add objects, Shift A.
This is important.
Menus are context sensitive, so I just added an object. There's add object modifiers that you can use, but once you use any controls in here, this goes away and it'll give you a different context menu. And it will give you a different context menu. Okay, so if I want to make it bigger, there we go. And you can do options in here, but I just want to leave it at 0. Okay, as soon as I play with this control, the menu goes away and I get a different context menu. Okay, I'm going to add another object. If you've added the extra packages, as I mentioned in a previous video, you would have gears. We'll just rotate it that way. You can change the number of teeth. You can change the size. You can change the width. Change the base. Something you can play with. But again, as soon as I touch one of these controls, I won't be able to adjust these anymore. You'll have to delete it and start all over again. Okay, I'm going to move it, and you're going to see that menu go away. Okay, one fancy object that you can add is the monkey. The only thing you can change really is its size. The good thing about the monkey is a front, is a back, a left side, and a right side. So with a cube, you don't know which way is necessarily the front. With a monkey, you know which way is the front, so you can see what you're doing with all the different rotations clearly. Okay, so that's basic adding of objects. I'm going to get rid of this and this. I just press the X key to delete. Turn on the transform panel. Okay, I'm going to put that back at 0. Okay, this is object mode, so it gives you certain options. If I go into edit mode, you can do this, but it's faster if you use the tab key to toggle between edit mode and object mode. Notice how these menus change. Okay, a plane, not too easy to edit when it's just 4 points and 1 polygon. So you can add detail to your object by subdividing. Okay, notice how one subdivision is doubling the number of vertices in this direction and in this direction. If I wanted 20 polygons, I would have to do 19 cuts. That's assuming that it was only 1 polygon to start off with. Okay, as soon as I move, I can't change the number of subdivisions anymore. I could do undo, and I'll just redo. Okay, so you'd have to undo and then select subdivide again. I can deselect all vertices by pressing A. This will toggle selecting them all, none, all. Okay, another quick way to select, I'm going to go into 7, top view. I can select with a box or a rectangle, and that's with the B key. Okay, so I'm selecting some. Again, press A. I can select individual vertices with the right mouse button, and it will toggle points So if I right-click the one that's already on, it'll turn it off. And with the box key, I am holding down the left mouse button. Okay, notice the center here is the center of all the selected vertices. So if I select a vertex, another vertex, another vertex, another vertex, it's going to try to find the center of all the vertices that I do. So if I rotate, not that this makes sense, it's rotating around the center of all those vertices. And I press escape to cancel that. You would press spacebar if you wanted to actually accept that. Okay. Another way to select is with the circle selector. This is a very useful tool, so I would get used to it. So I'm pressing the left mouse button again, and I press the C key to start. As long as the circle is still there, I'm still in the circle selector, so I can press the left mouse button again, add more vertices. Okay. If I hold down the Shift key, it will deselect vertices. Okay. And instead of holding the left Shift key, you can also use the middle mouse button to deselect vertices. And then go back to the left mouse button and add vertices. Okay, and to accept, you can just press escape. And again, to edit, I would stick to using just the manipulators. That way you're moving in the direction that you want. When you're in this view and you try to use the G key to move, you can skew your vertices. Okay? But when you're in the G key, you can lock the axes to which one you want. So if you want to lock it in Z, that's common if you're adding planes to lock your Z. And then press the space bar to accept. If you press the escape key, it will undo your transformation. Okay, so we use G to move. You use R to rotate. And you use S to scale. Okay, and it will scale from the center of all those vertices. Another way to do this is with the manipulators. This one is the move or the translate. This one is for rotation, and this one's for scaling. It's always good to have your big undo buffer set so that you can undo any mistakes that were from a few edits ago. Now, on Windows, this is working, okay? If it's not working, it's because it defaults to automatic. Okay, so if I try to use this, it doesn't work. On the Mac, it should work, but on the PC, it doesn't default to the right setting for every machine. So this machine needs the OpenGL occlusion queries. I'm going to save that. And now you can see that I can grab that axis and rotate just on that axis. Okay, so I'm going to undo everything. Notice that when I shifted those vertices up, it just affected those vertices. It didn't affect anything else. this doesn't look very smooth. One way we can improve this is enable proportional editing. Okay, and there's different curves that you can do, but start off with smooth. It generally gets you the result that you want. If you're trying to do something more complicated, then you'll want to use this. This is more organic. You might want to use something like this or like this if you are doing something more mechanical. Okay, I'm going to undo this. You can't use these manipulators. You have to use the keys. So G, and notice that there's a circle now on my screen, and I'll limit it to just the Z. So if the circle's small, it's going to give you a steep curve. If you widen the circle, it's a more gradual curve. Okay. And again, this is a small number of subdivisions. There's a limit to how smooth it's going to look. Let's go back into object mode. So we can see that it's kind of blocky. And let's scroll up. And if we use smooth shading, it will get rid of the blockiness. So you need to determine whether you actually want to subdivide for more control, or you just want to use the smooth feature to get you the smoothness you need without adding high polygon counts. Let's go back to editing. We can add detail where we want it. Let's just go back to the top view. If I want just more detail on this, I can do subdivide, and that will just double the number of vertices unless you want to change that number. Okay, another editing feature is to extrude. So if I just move this up, there's no extra vertices to manipulate. So if I extrude, move up, so it's got a blue line, so I'm extruding only in the Z direction. And you can press spacebar to accept, escape to cancel. Press spacebar. I'm going to extrude one more time. I am pressing the E key to extrude. Okay. So I'm going to deselect all the vertices. I'm going to use the box selector. Now, shading's turned on, and my box selector will only select visible vertices. So the way to make the vertices all visible is to turn off shading. Now I can see the back ones. So now if I do a box selector, I'm using the left mouse button again. I've selected all the vertices. Okay. If I wanted to put a bend in this object, I could just move in one direction. If I want to scale, I can go to the scale manipulator. Again, I can do it just in the direction that I want. I want it to be wider in both directions. I can do that. Okay, and these manipulators, I'm using the left mouse button. Okay, if I go undo, undo, undo. Okay, if I use the S key, it's going to stretch it out from the center. And the center was there. And it'll do it by the same proportion on each direction. Okay, sometimes it's hard to select your vertices if you're in perspective. So on the numpad, if you press 5, it'll change it to orthographic. And if I choose the front view, it'll make it easy to select everything on the same level. So if I wanted to select just the top layer, here we go, it selected the top layer all the way through. Deselect, Go back to the front view. I'm going to turn shading on. Again, context is everything. Now I've only selected the visible ones. Okay, so if you want to select all the way through, turn on wireframe. And you can select manually here, but it's easier to use the Z key. So it'll toggle between wireframe and solid. Okay, let's check our rubric just to see where we're sitting. We've talked about adding objects. We've moved objects with the move, size, and rotate keys, and we've also done the widgets or the manipulators. So we talked about the G, R, and S keys. And we haven't talked about duplicating objects. We've talked about shading options. That's the Z key. We've talked about toggling object in edit mode. That's the Tab key. We've talked about clicking and shift clicking, and click means the right mouse button. And we've done box and circle and all. That's the A key. This was the C key. This was the B key. So we've done vertex selection and deselection. We can also talk about doing edges and faces. So that's these icons down here. So this means a vertex. This means an edge. So I'm going to hold the shift key and okay, so I'm selecting edges. I select the move selector. I'm modifying just those edges. Okay, hard to tell with proportional editing. And now you can see we're just moving those edges. Undo that. Select faces. Okay, so now we're selecting faces. Again, I'm not going to have proportional editing on. You can see the effect a little bit better. Okay. And it's looking smooth because I still have smooth shading on. Okay, so we've done that. Let's talk about duplicating the object. Go back to object mode and add an object. Let's add monkey. Okay, let's turn perspective back on. That's the 5 key. I want to duplicate him, so that's Shift D. And now I'm moving him within the view. Again, it's moving him in the view perspective. I have no idea where he is in terms of X, Y, and Z. I'll just put him over here. And if we go to top view, you can see that it's a little bit further back. Okay, and from the front view, actually I'll go back to ortho, he's a little bit higher. So if you're using the manipulators, you know exactly which direction you're moving him. Okay, back to the rubric. So we've looked at extruding vertices, we've done proportional editing, we've done subdividing at the edit level. We've looked at flat shading and smooth shading. Let's just take a look at it one more time. Now we can directly compare since we've duplicated it. So we're going to smooth shade that one. Look at how much better that looks. So if you're doing something mechanical, sure, we can have it look a little bit blocky, but if it's organic, we want it to have smooth. And we've talked about scaling vertices. Let's look at merging vertices. Okay, I'm going to go back to this object, tab. So looking at this, maybe there's too many vertices at the top. Again, shading off, circle select. I've got all those top points. Oops, those are still selected, so A, turn them off. Actually, I want to be in vertex mode. Now notice if I go and make this really big, I'm only selecting the object that I'm working on. It didn't select any vertices from the two monkeys, okay? Because you can only edit one object at a time. You can merge the two objects together to form one object, and then you would be able to select the vertices from there. Okay, so you can merge with the keyboard, but it's better to use the context menu and merge. Merge at center, merge at cursor. This is the cursor. That might not make too much sense unless the cursor was properly placed. I'm going to undo that. And merge at center. Okay, so it's going to merge at the center of all those vertices. Okay, and the rest of the items I'll cover in another video. This is basically for objects and mesh editing. And that completes this lesson.